I love to come to Madrid. It's certainly the history, it's certainly the food, but it's most importantly the people. The proud people of Spain and all the things that you have accomplished in your history, your culture, your arts, and your technology. What I wanted to do today was to talk a little bit about the future of the internet, what's going to happen next. And then we're going to have some interesting panels, and I'll come back and do questions and answers. But most important, I want to thank you all for coming. So last year, the population of the world reached 7 billion. Pretty good. But it's interesting that the population of the internet reached exactly 2 billion. It gives you a sense of where we really are. And so in many ways, the World Wide Web has yet to live up to its name. We've not achieved a worldwide phenomena, just a percentage, just a small percentage. For every person online today, there are 2 that are not. They've never done a Google search, they've never watched a YouTube video or anything like that. Now, we know that technology can be a very powerful enabler of freedom. Look at what happened in the Arab Spring. It sort of showed us that whenever artful, clever citizens use this technology, they search for freedom, they search for democracy, they search for self-representation. When I was in Libya and in Tunisia, the rule I was taught was that the dictators managed to regulate everything except the internet. And that's what killed them, both literally in Gaddafi's case. So when we talk about the power of technology, we want to be realistic. For most people, the digital revolution has not arrived yet. I'm a realist. It doesn't mean I'm a defeatist. I think every revolution begins with a very small group of people, us, people who believe in all of this. So today the web is amazing with 2 billion people. Imagine what will be with 7 when everybody else joins us. Imagine more innovation, more creativity, more opportunity. The past decade has taught us if you connect people, interesting and amazing things happen. I believe that as this occurs, there will be another technology divide as well. In other words, we still have problems to work on, and that's what I want to talk about. Now, there's a first group. I'm going to call them the privileged few. And these people are ultra-connected. This is us, okay? Connected all the time. The early adopters, the developers, the computer scientists, people with the will and the resources to celebrate the cutting edge of technology. And that tends to be the lucky few, right? An unrepresentative minority, which includes us, that we start with advantages, right? Good education, good birth, relative wealth compared to other people in the world. So for this group, the group that we're in, the technology, the future offers only the limits of what science can offer and society seems ethical. Moore's law continues to indicate that technology will improve, roughly doubling every 2 years in performance. The cost of computer storage is doubling every 14, that is falling by a factor of 2 every 14 months. That's amazing. It just continues and continues and continues. So we can look forward to a world where the cost of microchips and hard drives are less than $1 or €1 or whatever your favorite currency is these days. Tiny, powerful sensors, right, that are embedded in our bodies and around us that tell us what's going on and help us with our medical diagnoses, where we are, what we're doing. And in 2020, fiber optic networks, these very, very fast networks, will be pretty much available in most major cities around the world with up to 1 gigabit of performance. A gigabit is so great, you cannot imagine all of the things that you can do with all of this bandwidth. When I look at this, it means to me we're beginning to see science fiction turn into reality. Think back to Star Trek, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, my actual favorite show. Much of what those writers imagined is now possible. whether it's automatic translation. Think about Google Maps. Think about all of the things that you take for granted today that are in fact amazing. So the people who predict that holograms and virtual reality and self-driving cars will be commonplace are really right. These advances will in fact be real. They really will happen, and they're happening now. Self-driving cars will be largely licensed in the United States, and I suspect in Europe over the next few years. But the really smart things that are happening improve the way our societies operate. There's a trend in computer science called big data. And big data means that we have a lot of data about what's going on, and computers can help us determine what's happening. All of this working very well. With this, we can gain interesting insights into how people and communities function. Governments, for example, will be able to better see the beginnings of an economic crisis. They'll have more data. They're not very good at it now, but they will be. Doctors will be able to predict the outbreak of disease. And teachers will be able to understand how to best teach students, because not all students are the same, right? It makes sense. So transparency will force governments to operate differently, and bureaucrats and politicians will all be more open in their decision-making. I believe that there is an emerging group of global citizens inspired by people like Steve Jobs, who believe society can be actually shifted by these platforms, that these platforms are so powerful in terms of the way they're put together, that they actually change the way we organize ourselves. And their passion can sometimes border on the religious. But the ultimate achievement in this future is that the technology will actually just disappear. And I don't mean that technology becomes less relevant. I just mean becomes part of everyday life. To spend less time trying to get technology to work, worrying about which cables work and computers or where your content is stored. It's also seamless. It's so easy, just automatic. It will just be there. The web that we live in will be everywhere, but it will also be nowhere. It will be like electricity. And the result, people will instinctively trust in their technology in a way that I think is very different from today. And in that sense, they'll have more faith in technology than in many of the other institutions of their lives. That's the first group. That's the privileged few, most of us. There's another group coming. This is a technologically advanced community. These are people who've grown up with increasing sophistication, daily lives, born into households connected to broadband with multiple computers and equipped with skills and digital literacy to use them, but they are also middle class in income. They're not going to be able to afford all of the amazing things coming. But this new group will still be open to this new technology that is going to happen. For example, holopresence technology, this is the ability to visit other places, will be available. Taking a holographic projector, which produces a 3D image, you can project your appearance in real time, and you can watch a live video of that remote location. So you could, for example, stand among the street performers in the grand market of Marrakesh, right? In the heart of the Congo during a total eclipse, or in North Korea when the regime has its first real election. That's sort of amazing and happening, I think, fairly soon. The cloud will be equally transformative, especially for small businesses. And the chores of the enterprises will be easily handled for the cloud, where existing servers can provide powerful, low-cost applications for all. Now, why does this matter? What's important about it? Because applications and services are improving the experience of this growing middle class. And this middle class is going to play a decisive role in this society. But not all connected contributors are going to be alike. There'll be some who build and some who buy. Now, those who build will use the entrepreneurial platform that's available to use new tools and new expression. And computer science is more than just coding. Now there are groups like Speak to Tweet and Ushahidi, for example, which put together tools very, very quickly that they were put in extreme circumstances and crises. By combining sort of passion and talent, the developers created these tools. And they were used by dissidents and activists, we're very proud of this, all over the world to overcome government restrictions and barriers to freedom. So if you think about it, developers are the engineers of human freedom. Now those who buy take a more reactive approach. They navigate the world of information by intuition. And what they do is they are sophisticated consumers, the 90% that engages, responds, and collaboratively filters the content produced by the 10%. So being invested in the common spaces of the web, they speak a loud voice to defend those spaces from attacks on freedom of expression and basic human rights. Something I know we all care a lot about. I have always believed that the network is more than a network of machines. It's a network of minds that's evolving into a collective intelligence and a global conscience. Look at the way people came together in the Japanese tsunami, this terrible, terrible earthquake. We see this in moments of crisis, of tragedy and joy, when the web unites us in this sentiment of freedom all around us. There's another group. I'm going to call them the aspiring majority. And although these connected contributors are rapidly growing, they're still a minority. The next 5 billion, I'm going to call them the aspiring majority. For them, the web is a scarce resource. In communities all over the world, there are only pockets of connectivity, digital oases in the online deserts. So in the next decade, there'll be big improvements in the digital infrastructure of the developing world. Wired networks will get faster, farther. But it's important to say that there's a limit to the amount of the new infrastructure that can be made in the year 2020. But this is not the only way people will get connected. We cannot imagine the future simply by extrapolating the past. Makes sense. As data access arrives at scale among the aspiring majority, they're skipping straight to high-speed internet connectivity, skipping all of the previous technology. So this smartphone revolution will be universal, and a mobile experience at the level of today will be available to almost everybody at a fraction of the price. In 12 years, handsets will be 20 times faster. So a $400 phone will be a $20 phone. Huge, huge change. And of course, having a smartphone is not enough to get you online. You still need a data connection. And data connections, especially in the developing world, are very expensive. But these smartphones don't have to talk to a central hub. They can talk to each other. That's what's key. So these are organized in what is called a mesh network. In these mesh networks, you can, instead of connecting them to centralized web, they can connect literally to each other. And the communities beam data. Literally, you take the phones and you beam the information between the two. This is what is so interesting, to share local content. A group of these phones can then be connected to the web for internet-enabled server, and you can build these networks on Wi-Fi or longer-range wireless technologies like 4G. So the technology works. So a mesh is a simpler and cheaper option. It's a stepping stone for getting communities connected. And anybody with a solar collector can have a server and build a local network. Pretty interesting. And even when the data connection is unreliable, you still have text messaging and interactive voice response to communicate with. Now, no one is suggesting that technology will suddenly transform the social, political, and economic conditions of communities. Technology doesn't produce miracles. But connectivity, even in modest amounts, changes lives. The network becomes, think of it as a digital watering hole, a place where everybody comes and meets and hangs out. Communities can draw together. People who access the network can engage in shared experiences, regardless of physical obstacles that they face. But most importantly, this network redefines the experience these people have with the world. In times of war and suffering, it's impossible to ignore the voices that cry out for help. Think about the extraordinary pictures that have come out of Syria every day. Assad's brutality on display for all of us to see, and people are responding. This is part of what the internet can do. In this new world, there are fewer places for dictators to hide. It'd be far easier for communities to mobilize themselves against autocratic regimes. And everyone's knowledge becomes everyone else's. Education, science, and discovery will be shared and enjoyed by people everywhere. And the appeal of doing business in developing countries will never be greater, and corporations will work hard, like Google, to win billions of these new customers. So with information comes power, and with power comes choice. Smarter citizens will demand a better deal from their consumers, more responsible behavior from the elites. And that, I think, is the final lesson of the future, that there will still be elites, there will still be a privileged few, but they don't have a monopoly on progress. Technology is a great leveler, that the weak will be made strong, and those with nothing shall have something, and everybody gets much better. So I wanted to put this into a conclusion and a message for our Big Tent audience today. When I think about it, in many ways, we become more equal. But what is interesting is the ways in which the differences will persist. And although expressed in new forms for the next new decades, the gap between the top and the bottom will be larger, not smaller. Because while the privileged few races forward, the very poor are just catching up to the basics. It's still good for all. One thing we're very concerned about is that governments are going to continue to control and restrict access to the web and technology. There are 40 countries that engage in online censorship essentially against Google, and up from 4 a decade ago. Our products are blocked in 25 countries out of the 125 that we operate. This is very, very worrisome. We're going to see more efforts by governments to censor the internet. Governments don't like information, especially if it challenges them. I think that they're going to fail because the internet and technology are like water. They will find a way through. No system of censorship can ever be completely absolute. We need to act now to avoid the rise of a new digital caste system. We're not born into families with laptops and high-speed connections, but all human beings, every single one of them, is blessed with creativity, imagination, and a capacity for innovation, regardless of where we came from. Technology empowers by its very nature and by ensuring universal access, to the cloud, to each other, to the world. And we can really create a community of equals. Every revolution begins with a small group of people. All of us are here, right, literally here at the Big Tent, because we have been given opportunities, because we understand this, because we care about our society around us. And we all have the talent and passion to change the world through power of technology. So let's all commit ourselves to building a world where everybody has the choice and the power to be connected. And let's all enjoy the benefits of that, a much greater future and an opportunity for all. What the internet offers is an amazing platform for human expression, free speech, and hearing their voices. We need to fight for that. Thank you so very much. And I think we're going to have another one. You going to come? Thank you.